We've all read fairy tales of finding a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. You know, for some people, that dream comes true when an old pot turns out to be worth its weight in gold on the Antiques Roadshow. That's just one of today's stories as we delve deeper into the treasure chest we call Priceless Antiques Roadshow. I spent the last year watching people queue patiently to see our experts, and the same questions come up time and time again. How old is it? What's it made of? And of course, what's it worth? In this show, we're searching the archives for some of the happiest owners we've ever met. People who came along thinking they'd brought a dud, only to discover they'd in fact made a very canny buy. Who knows, you might pick up a few pointers. Ever wondered what happens when a roadshow expert is off duty? Meet Orlando Rock, our furniture expert, who takes his work home. And some saucy sirens seduce our team.
Good Lord.
Cheeky.
And on one leg.
There are some legendary stories in the Roadshow Hall of Fame. Probably the most popular are those that begin with a bargain buy at a boot sale and end up with the bids flying thick and fast at a prestigious auction house. But have you ever wondered which object brought to a roadshow made the biggest profit? Could it be this clock? Let's take a look at some of the top contenders from 32 years of roadshow history.
Have it Italian?
Yes, go on. We didn't have to, but it'd be interesting.
£4, 10 shillings.
I don't believe it.
People like the idea of something for nothing.
I bought it at a car boot sale.
The car boot sale?
Yes.
What, down locally here?
Yes, only down the road.
And if you have bought it at a car boot sale for very little, then I think a lot of people who watch the programme might find that appealing.
How much did you pay for it?
25 pence.
25 pence?
The bargain finds, I think, are really popular on the roadshow because, you know, it could have happened to anybody. It really could have been you.
And it were about 10 shilling when I had it.
The hunter-gatherers among us, male and female, who love looking out for bargains. I remember in Whitney, this chap came in with a fabulous album.
These are the most wonderful aquatins of Switzerland.
And when we got into the history of it, this is always fascinating, finding out where these things have come from.
Well, it came originally from a jumble sale that my mother organised in North London, but paid 50 shillings for this because she thought it was rather charming.
50 shillings?
Yes, this was about 25 years ago, 30 years ago.
50 shillings is £2.50 in today's money, and that was a real bargain.
And over 37 different views, including, and I saw the binding, I
Incredible.
thought, we've got something absolutely tremendous here. These wonderful oak leaves on the border here, it's beautifully done, lovely tooling, and over 37 different views, including a few watercolours and all the rest of it. Do you have an idea of how much your mother's 50 shillings has gone up?
Absolutely none.
Right. Well, I think a conservative estimate would say somewhere in the region of £10,000.
That is incredible.
What a bargain. That's 4,000 times the purchase price.
If the person is surprised, clearly they thought it was not worth a lot of money, and now it is worth a lot of money, suddenly they've been given a present.
How did you come by it?
Well, I bought it 39 years ago.
How much?
Have it Italian?
Yes, go on. We didn't have to, but it'd be interesting.
£4, 10 shillings.
I don't believe it. It's going to be worth in the region of £3,000 to £5,000. You didn't expect that?
No, I've got a shock.
I think the bargain finds make such great viewing because there is this lottery element about them. It could so easily be any of the people who are watching that programme who could have found it in a charity shop, could have got it off the internet, could have stumbled across it at a boot fair. It's wonderful.
And it looks to me as if what we have here is an extremely handsome microscope. And what I'd like to do is to take everything out of the box and put it together. Whilst I'm doing that, tell me how it came to you.
Well, it was an old gentleman friend of my father who, you know, I've had it about 30 years.
Oh, yes.
And he wanted to sell me a few things, and it were about 10 shilling when I had it.
And have you ever had it set up and used?
I used to do it regular, trying to look at spiders' legs and things.
And how did you find the magnification?
Difficult.
Yes. It's not easy, is it?
No.
Well, 10 years ago, I saw one of these sold for £11,000. That was 10 years ago.
Nearly fainted.
That's 22,000 times what he paid for it. But there's better to come.
It would be hard to beat the discovery made by a gentleman who came along to the Antique Roadshow at Whitley Court. He brought along a slipware cup, but he bought in a local auction.
It had an estimate on it which seemed reasonable by Staffordshire slipware estimates. On the day of the auction, there were two people bidding. They bid up to one below the bottom of estimate. I put in one bid, and I got it. And it's sat on my ironing board for 2 weeks because I thought I'd been done. I thought somebody just caught me out.
In the auction, he paid just under £500 for this cup, taking a gamble that this was the real thing. And he brought it along to the roadshow to find out.
So, thinking about what it's worth, it's worth a lot more than you paid. There's no doubt about that. About £50,000?
No, really.
That's 100 times what he paid for that 17th century Staffordshire cup. But this next bargain buy, filmed just recently, broke all roadshow records.
I cannot begin to tell you how fortunate I was to be at Dumfries House at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a very wet day when most of the crowd had disappeared, and two people approached me and they were carrying a carrier bag, and a lady and her husband, and she says, I find words are just inadequate to explain, because, you know, you hope for certain things to come in over years and years, and it never happens. Then all of a sudden, when it does, it takes your breath away.
If you look very carefully, there's actually a name on it. And the name is sort of lurking behind here. We'll turn it round. And that name is Lalique. And so, have you heard of Lalique?
Lalique?
Lalique? No? OK. Well, you're on a rapid learning curve today, aren't you?
And this vase, it was unassuming, but it was a vase by Aurenia Lalique.
So, car boot.
Yes.
4 plant. How much were they asking for the plant?
Well, I paid a pound.
You
well,
paid
a pound.
You paid
for
a
the
pound.
vase and the plant.
Paid a pound, right.
Pound.
Well, it's worth a mere £25,000.
Oh, my God.
Now, tell me about your loft.
No, I don't think I will.
And you've got to remember that you've got to get it right, because if I'm telling you something's worth £25,000 and then you go and try and sell it and nobody offers you more than 5, well, you know, I mean, I've got a conscience, you know. But they did decide to sell it.
Any advance, 20,000 now with the telephone at 20,000.
So owner Anne found herself at a top London auction house, watching in amazement as the bids climbed higher and higher.
Going down at 26. Sold. Well done.
She sold it not for 25,000. They actually sold it for £26,000. So I got it wrong. Sort of.
Congratulations, Anne. The Lalique made an amazing 26,000 times what she paid for it, making her the current record holder for buying low and selling high. I was there when Anne brought that unassuming vase in. Who'd have believed it? If you've got an eye for a bargain, silver specialist Ian Pickford has some tips on finding good quality collectibles that won't break the bank.
Now, I don't really know that I should be telling you this, but napkin rings. Do you know silver napkin rings are an ideal starting point for anybody's collection? They tick all the collector's boxes. Huge range. plain engraved. I mean, this one's a delightful engraved example. Enamelled, you name it. By the time you put all those different factors together, all the different ways they can be made, and made from the latter part of the 19th century onwards, you can actually start collecting these now and collect them until kingdom come, and you will still find examples you haven't got. That is an ideal collector's field, especially because they're very little money. You can buy them easily under £50 today. They've just steadily crept up in value. But as a collector, actually, that's what you really want. And at the end of the day, you'd have a fascinating collection.
You might imagine that our experts dedicate all of their time to life on the road with the show. Actually, every one of them has a very different life away from the cameras. For instance, I can reveal that we have an international airline pilot and a former rock journalist on the team. And as for furniture expert Orlando Rock, you could say that he now lives over the shop. And what a shop. After a hard week's work at an auction house, Orlando returns home to this spectacular Elizabethan mansion in Lincolnshire. And his wife Miranda, whose family have lived at Burley for over 400 years.
Burley plays this amazing dual role between being a very public house that's open to a lot of visitors during the year and also very much our very fortunate family house.
We moved into Burley in July 2007. My grandfather set up the Burley House Preservation Trust to protect the house and the contents and the wider park and estate. And I'm now an employee of that trust and work here as director of the house. Like any house along these lines, it's never just a home, it is a job as well. And it's full-time, 24/7.
And there's always projects on the go, and it's nice seeing how the ha-ha walls are being rebuilt or how the stone conservation is going with the chimneys or the bridge.
A big part of the job is keeping an eye on everything. And when we go for a walk as a family and we'll trek out, you're always compiling a mental list of things you've noticed. There's a sign that needs repainting, there's a crack in the wall. It is a bit like living above the shop all the time. And that has its advantages and disadvantages. Sometimes you long to be further away, but it's great to be involved in everything and know what's going on.
With around 90 rooms and over 1,000 paintings in the collection, Burley is a huge responsibility.
One of the most difficult things about the house is just the sheer scale. So you spend your life running around the courtyard trying to find your children, gathering them up, put their clothes on. But it's fantastic here because they run up and down these corridors. And I think the great thing is that children, if they're used to kind of growing up around breakable things, they're much more careful than one thinks. So actually, instead of being terrified all the time, I'm actually comparatively relaxed.
Orlando's passion for Burley regularly draws him away from the family apartment and into the chillier public rooms, which are definitely more suitable for adults.
So this is the Great Hell Staircase, designed by the 5th Earl of Exeter to welcome, intimidate and impress his guests. Full of the ideas of the Grand Tour in Italy, he got Antonio Verrio to paint this in the 1690s, and it's a perfect representation of hell.
Having been thoroughly intimidated, guests were then elevated to even dizzier heights.
Well, as we pass through hell and ascend into heaven, we find ourselves confronted with Antonio Verrio's nude goddesses disporting themselves as the gods are wont to do on Mount Olympus. And to me, it's one of the most dramatic houses. From the outside, you've got a pure Elizabethan architectural core. It was built between 1550 and 1585, and the outside is very unchanged. But it's at a complete schizophrenic contrast to the interior, which was really rebuilt as an Italian palace in the late 17th century. These rooms were for high days and holidays, and it was really when the family was trying to show itself off to its very, very best. Well, I think the fantastic thing about houses like this is they always throw up all sorts of new problems and quandaries and puzzles, and a huge amount of fantastic work has been done cleaning all the frescoes, restoring the furniture, and we just hope to carry on continuing that work.
Orlando can't resist venturing into the darker recesses of Burley, looking for clues to the way the Heaven Room was furnished in its heyday.
I'm like a child in a sweet shop, absolutely. I'm terribly nosy. I love going through storerooms. These wonderful tall chairs were lurking in the corner of a kind of storeroom. And as I lifted back the blanket, it was rather an exciting moment. A tall chair is rather like a pedestal upon which you would have candelabra. One of the biggest problems we have here is that one wants to light these incredible Baroque rooms. When you're trying to show the frescoes to their very best, it's very, very difficult when every single surface is painted to work out a way of lighting them. You can't hide the lighting on the walls, you can't hide it in the coves of the ceilings above the architectural panelling. And so in this room, the solution hopefully lies in the early inventories, because there are these wonderful records of this set of tall chairs that stood in the four corners of the rooms.
Orlando hopes that the tall chair can be saved at one of Burley's on-site workshops.
Well, here we are, a bit of a project,
yes,
to say the least. Got quite a few bits missing in
I
this.
wouldn't say it was a complete wreck. Just close to it.
So where do we go from here, Mike?
Clean it first, and then see about replacing all the missing pieces. That, as you just noticed, is there, which saves having to make a new one of those.
So this is one you've already had a go at, trying to replace some of
Yes.
the missing swags. Work in progress.
Yes, we decided not to have them carved because of the cost, and we've had them made in resin, cast in resin, which I then cut to fit what's left of the original.
Okay, so here we've got one of the originals.
That's this side.
Right. And that's the tone
which
down.
is joined here to polyester resin.
Right. That's great, isn't it? It's a very good colour match. So the great plan, when we finally finish the long, drawn-out conservation and the worries about what we're going to do and how far to take it, is that the tall chairs will return back to this room where they're recorded in 1804, standing in the corners, and hopefully throwing light on various fantastic frescoes. Houses like this must evolve. You've always got to keep pushing the boundaries and moving things around just so that people look at things in a different way. I mean, every time I walk through these rooms, I see something totally different. And I'm sure, till the day I die, it'll be the same thing.
Orlando Rock on his day job at Burley House, which will also be one of the locations for this season's roadshow. You can join us there on Thursday, the 21st of May. Now, you probably don't think of the Antiques Roadshow as a risque programme, but I can tell you there have been quite a few saucy moments when semi-naked figures appear and seduce our team of experts. There's no telling when they'll turn up, but when they do, it's always a bit of a showstopper. We've asked Hilary Kay to reveal all, as it were.
Oh, it's very naughty. It's a lady on a potty.
On a very wet day, how nice to see a dirty picture.
I thought they'd make you blush, Paul.
I'm beyond blushing.
Are you?
I've seen it all.
Yes. Eric Knowles likes this when he sees it.
Of course he does.
We always said lady nudes to him.
I don't know why it is that all the sort of naked women that appear in this programme gravitate towards me.
Oh, he's got everything. I'm not sure this is correct for a family show. Very unusual for a doll to have his genitive parts, is it called?
How did you get hold of a chastity belt?
To go with my collection, I thought, I've got to have it.
Every home needs one.
Exactly.
I'm being called the queen of saucy objects. I have no idea where this comes from. It makes me feel like a bottle of ketchup. Good Lord.
Cheeky.
Saucy things have been made forever, really, but I guess one always associates them with the naughty 90s. And By that we mean the 1890s, not the 1990s. So there was the naughty 90s. And then there was another great sort of rebirth in the 1930s, and then again after the war. If you sort of think Carry On films, it's all that sort of era.
Talking of Carry On, certain experts seem to be made for saucy stuff.
She is an extremely smart society girl, isn't she? Beautifully wrapped up in her musquash fur coat. But she has a special feature, doesn't she? And if we just get hold of the edge of her coat, da-dum, she does literally reveal all. The whole business of wearing no knickers but wearing a fur coat, of course, has a new connotation when you're looking at an old work of art like this.
Oh, I mean, these risque pieces were made for all sorts of reasons, but basically to amuse and titillate. Why not?
And what have we got in here? Isn't it going to stop? Those wonderful legs.
Yeah, there we are.
And what are they?
Condoms.
Good grief.
Whether they're used, I don't know.
Well, I should hope not put back like that. Isn't that fascinating to see those?
When you're thinking about, OK, who's going to go out and buy a case full of French letters? I mean, obviously it's a man about town, or maybe some young lad aspiring to be a man about town.
There can't be so many survivors of this period, which I suppose is the mid-19th century. I can see just a trace at the top there of what is probably pig's bladder, because it's too early for rubber ones, and in a box which is disguised as a cigarette box. So every man could wander around with these, and
quite happily.
The lady might not know until, well, anyway, we won't go
I'll
there.
leave that
We
to
won't
you.
go there.
I have to say, when one thinks about saucy objects, to me, I always think about postcards. They were using these lovely double entendres from the early days, from the early 1900s, right the way through until the 1960s. And it was a huge industry, and you would never go to the seaside in Britain and not send a naughty postcard home again. Simple as that. You couldn't be at the seaside without having some seaside postcards, and they have to be saucy. And if you're talking about the king of saucy postcards, it's Donald McGill. Do you like him as much as I do?
I love him enormously, yes, Donald McGill. Sweet man, cheeky in the days when cheek was cheek.
Things got much more sophisticated as the 20th century wore on. And of course, a single image of a postcard was not nearly as exciting as a moving image. And when you got the end of the pier, penny in the slot machines, this was a great way of parting young men from their money.
Now collectors will happily part with their cash for saucy seaside memorabilia.
It's difficult to say, really, what attracted me to saucy objects. It goes back, I suppose, even as a school kid. When I was about 8 or 9, I used to go on the piers, and there used to be in Brighton a whole line of what the butler saw machines, and you just thought, if only I could have a good half hour to look at every one of those, you know. That was saucy, nothing nasty. That was just pure sauce.
I suppose I can't look down this because this actually says for gentlemen only.
Well, exactly.
Am I allowed a peek?
You need a coin, though, you see. It used to be a penny. It used to be a penny.
What is it with inflation?
It's now 20p. Put it in there.
OK.
That's right. In there.
Oh.
Actually, it's all very innocent, and that's the great thing about what the butler saw machines, you know. They put the most lurid titles on the top of it, like, you know, my goodness, should you be watching this, what the butler saw, gentlemen only. But basically, once you started turning the handle, it was a bit of a letdown, actually.
Good Lord.
Cheeky.
And on one leg. I have to say, we don't film every risque object that is brought in because, quite frankly, some of them are unsuitable for broadcasting. I think maybe there should be a sort of after the 9 o'clock watershed version of the roadshow, just occasionally.
Well, maybe we will bring you that late night edition one day. Before we go, another confession from one of our team. We're asking our experts if there's one item that's been pounced upon by another team member which they'd have loved to get their hands on themselves. Now pictures expert Rupert Mars is in the confessional. And surprisingly, his one that got away wasn't a painting.
there have been lots of things that I've seen other people do on the roadshow which I've found completely fascinating. It is a fascinating programme for somebody who likes old things, and I do. But just recently, the thing that really gripped me was this white feather that Graham Lay did.
This is addressed to, is this him, Mr.
Yes,
Taylor?
Mr. Taylor Jr.
Jr. What's this dated? 1916, it looks like, from the postmark. Oh, it's a letter to him.
You'll see.
And the white feather had been given as a badge of, well, a brand of cowardice, and it came with a rather sort of nasty letter.
Oh, goodness me. It's a white feather.
It's a white feather.
And I felt that there was something incredibly powerful about this object.
It says, "Noble sir, if you are too proud or frightened," underlined, "to fight, wear this." How must he have felt when he received this?
There were 16,000 conscientious objectors during the Great War. Many were imprisoned for their beliefs. But the white feather of cowardice, usually given by a young woman, represented a more personal attack.
Perhaps the sender had lost a loved one or something, but there was so much bound up in it.
And I have to say that I've never seen another white feather letter, ever.
Yes.
Because I doubt whether anybody kept them. I would have thought that...
I think most people would have been very anxious to get rid of them completely, very quickly.
Exactly.
So much, well, I'd say hate, and I'm not quite sure it was hate. There was envy, resentment, very complex mix of emotions. Whatever it was, ultimately, the dominant emotion, it was powerful.
That's just about it. Next time we uncover the hidden meanings behind some of the most stunning jewels that have been brought to the show. And we have access all areas at the home of rock journalist turned glass expert, Andy McConnell.
This is my Crystal Palace. I mean, you know, I've amassed over 31 years something in the realms of 30,000 pieces.
Before we go, a classic moment from the archives. Now, I mentioned we had an airline pilot on our books, and I can reveal it's clocks expert Richard Price. And here's a priceless moment from his early days on the show. Now, he may also be a horological specialist, but some owners can still take some persuading that what he says is true. Bye-bye.
I have to say that this is only about 80 years old, this case.
Well, that's your opinion, anyway.
I'm afraid so. But
good to say your opinion.
Nevertheless, you ought to insure that for about £45,000. So, I'm very glad you enjoy it, and I'm glad you love it so much. Thank you.
No trouble?
You just stand back in, sir. We have to do a few cutaways now.
Cutaway?
Yeah.
It's a quick look over to BBC One now, where Christopher Biggins is the special guest on The One Show. Back here next, have a double on BBC Two as Oz and James continue to drink to Britain, while on BBC Three, Captain Jack storms back into the life of Doctor Who.